This is the Lumix S1R II. I'm not paid, I'm not sponsored. These are my thoughts and my thoughts only. Let's talk about what makes this camera so special and what are some things you should look out for. Let's get down to it. So let's talk about some of the specs on this camera system here. It's a 44 megapixel BSI full frame sensor. Now it's not stacked, but it's a BSI sensor, all right? Stacked, it's gonna be more for sports oriented, fast action. This is not that kind of camera system, even though it can do up to 40 frames per second. We're gonna talk about that burst mode in just a bit, and also the 1.5 seconds pre-capture RAW in this camera, which is very impressive. In terms of video, up to 8.1K and 6K open gate. And I'm hearing there's gonna be a firmware update in the near future that allows you to shoot up to 8K open gate as well, which is gonna be absolutely amazing. It's a very good all-purpose camera system. If you are a sports or wildlife photographer, we're gonna talk about those disciplines in just a bit. Yes, you can capture those subjects, but there are some hiccups, or I should say some limitations that will prohibit you from getting the maximum performance out of this camera system. Perhaps that will be updated in a future firmware update, I don't know. But let's talk about the body design first and foremost. It's very reminiscent of the S5 II, S5 IIX. It's almost roughly the same size, it's just a little bit thicker. But if you're putting a cage on this, I believe the cage of the S5 II will fit on this respectively. Now, it feels really good in the hands. I mean, Panasonic has done a fantastic job in terms of the ergonomics. It is a bit smaller than the original S1R that came out in 2019. That was a much more robust, heavier camera system. I believe this is about 20 to 30% lighter. And you do feel it right away. I mean, I really enjoyed using this camera system, and it's great to put on, let's say, the DJI RS4 Mini gimbal. It fits on that beautifully, no issues at all with that. But in terms of the lens, we're actually using the Sirui 20mm anamorphic lens for this opening of the video and this part of the video as well. So if you're seeing these bended lines and the flares, that's why we're trying the L-mount version of this lens with this, because one of the great things about Lumix cameras is the support for anamorphic lenses. You can actually de-squeeze and see the de-squeeze, and you can choose which you want respectively. And there's also in-body stabilization for anamorphic as well, which is something we do not see in any other hybrid camera system that I know of in the marketplace. Maybe for cinema, but not in this price range especially, and not in this kind of body style. You're not seeing that. And that's what makes the Lumix so special, are the features they're putting in this camera, especially at the price point. I mean, this is around 3,000 plus USD. Obviously, prices will adjust based on promotions thereabouts, but this has been a really fun camera to use. And the design, the weight, the ergonomics, the performance, it's one of my favorite camera systems I've been using thus far in 2025. By the way, I just want to give a special shout out to Panasonic Singapore for loaning me the cameras for a period of time. And, you know, I've been, ever since the S1R II was announced, and I was like, oh, I would love to review this. You know, it's, in this part of the world, the Lumix market isn't as vast as it is in North America or Europe. And hopefully it does get there because they make fantastic cameras. But, you know, Panasonic Singapore came through, and I just want to say thank you guys. Really appreciate it. With that said, it doesn't, you know, sway my thoughts as you're hearing throughout this video. I'm very honest, but I do think it's great to give credit where credit's due, and they've been a fantastic support throughout this entire journey. Any questions I've had, I've asked them. They've emailed their respective departments, and I've gotten the answers that I needed. So there you have it. Thank you, Panasonic. Much appreciated. So what we're going to do now is we're going to break up this video into two separate sections: photography only, then video. We're gonna wrap it up. So now, let's talk about photography first. So let's talk about image quality on this camera system. It's a 44 megapixel sensor, which has come down 3 megapixels from the original S1R at 47 megapixels. Is that a deal breaker? Not at all. You're not going to notice the difference. Actually, you're gonna see an increase, in my opinion, of image quality because you have a much better sensor, faster readout in terms of burst mode. So obviously, if you wanna capture faster action, you can do that. But it's also a dual gain sensor, so you're gonna get better ISO performance than the original S1R. Now, as I mentioned earlier in this video, I've taken this on a few different disciplines: birding, wildlife, sports, lifestyle. And I would say this is gonna be predominantly a great lifestyle camera. Yes, it can do faster action, but the readout speed on this sensor isn't gonna be the same as, let's say, Canon R3 or R1 or Sony A9 III or a Nikon Z8 or Z9. It's not that kind of camera. So you have to set your expectations accordingly. But the image quality out of this, the colors, the Lumix colors are beautiful, absolutely beautiful. The reds pop, the blues, the skin tones are awesome. I mean, we see this in video already. It carries over into the photography aspect of it. I've really enjoyed shooting with this system. And the dynamic range out of these files is fantastic. Again, this is not a stacked sensor, so you're gonna get a little bit better dynamic range than if you were to have a stacked sensor, but this BSI sensor does really provide fantastic image quality. Now, in terms of the different disciplines, let's talk about them for a second. Now, lifestyle, as I mentioned, no issues at all. I went to Borobudur in Yogyakarta in Indonesia. We took some images at the temple there with my partner. It was her birthday, and I wanted to try this camera out there, and it did not disappoint. It was unbelievable. The dynamic range, I mean, we were shooting in bright daylight, and I can pull a lot of details from the temple. When you get into sports, though, I want to talk about that for a second because I did capture some baseball, and it does a really good job of tracking. However, if you want to go to the max burst mode of 40 frames per second, it's not meant to be like other cameras out there. If you're going to compare it to the Nikon, the Canons, the Sonys, it's not that kind of system. It's about 70 frames and it stops. And then you have to wait for the buffer to clear. And it is quite debilitating at sometimes because if you want to maximize this system, I mean, I wish Lumix would have improved the buffering on this. Maybe they can do that in a future firmware update. I don't know. But I felt like, oh, I wish it was a bit better. But of course, if you drop the frames per second down, no issues at all. You're going to capture fantastic images. However, when you go to the electronic shutter in burst mode, you can see raw files that are only 12-bit versus 14-bit with mechanical shutter. It's not a deal breaker because most of the time you're not going to notice the difference. You want to capture the subject in action. That's the most important thing, but it is something to take in consideration that this may be a bit of a hindrance. But I want to talk about birding and wildlife in particular because obviously, you have so many different subject detections in this camera system, and they all work relatively well. Animals are really good, to be honest with you. I went to the zoo with this, and it captured lions and different animals that locked onto the eye, no issues at all. Now, in terms of birds, it's a little bit slow to acquire focus. I was using the Leica 100-400 and the Sigma 500 5.6 lenses, respectively, and these are pretty decent, quick autofocusing lenses, but it took a while to acquire focus. When it did, I caught some great shots, and I did capture some birds in flight, which actually worked out pretty well. Again, when you're trying to lock in at 40 frames per second, that buffer kicks off really quickly, and you do have pre-capture on this, up to 1.5 seconds, and I don't see any other camera system doing this in RAW. Sony does it in RAW, Nikon only does it in JPEG, but I think it's max 1 second. We're getting 1.5 seconds, so you are able to capture some more images in advance. But I keep talking about the burst mode because it's just one of those things that I wish was improved, and hopefully Lumix has addressed this in the future firmware updates because I get it, it's not a sports camera, but the buffer on this could be a lot better. So let's talk about autofocus. Let's talk about autofocusing for a second because people like to compare it to Canon and Nikon and Sony. Is it in that same category? In some ways, yes, and in some ways, probably not as much. Again, this is not a sports camera, right? But in lifestyle, daily photography, content creation, it's fine, it's great. I mean, we've been shooting this entire video on a Sirui anamorphic lens with autofocus, and so far it's good. JP says it's good, so I'm gonna take his word for it. I may look back on this as I'm editing going, ugh, but so far it looks good. Based on my footage that I've shot for various different work, for client work, and my own personal YouTube videos, it's fantastic. I've had no issues at all with it. So I think this whole autofocusing discussion, while it's valid in some disciplines, for the majority of us out there, I think all cameras are pretty good nowadays. And this does a great job. And it has all the different subject detections as well. So for you guys that are concerned about autofocus, it's okay. So let's talk video. Man, this is a great video camera. The image quality out of this camera system is phenomenal for video. I've been shooting a lot of my YouTube videos you've been seeing here on the channel with this camera system since I've had it for the past month. The stabilization is unlike anything we're seeing out of any other camera system, in my opinion, in this price range thus far. I mean, cropless stabilization. It's almost gimbal-like the way that you can use this camera system. We've been using it without anything but JP holding this camera right now for this entire video with the anamorphic lens, because you can also stabilize with an anamorphic lens. Tell me another camera system that does this. They don't. Lumix has brought their A game when it comes to stabilization, and nobody touches it. So many of you commented on my YouTube videos and on my videos as a whole, wow, the image quality looks so good. What are you shooting with? This camera is phenomenal. And I get why a lot of people opt for Lumix for video. The color science, the stabilization, the various different codecs and bit rates, and the flexibility that you have with your files, and the fact that you can shoot open gate, so you can go portrait or landscape, is awesome. And you can also, in the near future, get that upgrade to get 8K open gate, which will be surreal. With that said, we had a problem shooting this video, and I've had a problem with this camera. And it's not this camera, but I think it's just the way the system is designed. It's hot. It's getting hot. That's the problem. It's getting hot. We're gonna let it cool down, and I'll be back to tell you more. All right, guys, I'm jumping in here real quick to talk a little bit about the overheating, the battery life, and some other issues I faced with the camera system. And this is kind of in the future from when I shot the initial review. Now, I was using a Delkin Black CF Express Type B card, one of the fastest cards on the market. Really good card. I use it for my Nikon cameras. I've used it for Canon cameras. I use it for pretty much every camera that I test. No issues at all with that. Same with the XSN card. However, I was coming across this issue with the S1R II where it would overheat within 13 to 15 minutes. So I was talking to a good friend of mine, Brandon Talbot, Caffeinated Cameras, and he knew some people that went on the Lumix trip to Norway. And what he told me was, he gave me this feedback as I was talking to him about this. I said, I love this camera, but I'm just coming across this overheating issue and it's really bumming me out. He heard that SanDisk cards were recommended due to thermal management or thermal regulation. They have a better thermal system inside of them than the other cards out there. Now, again, when I hear these kind of things, I always take it with a grain of salt, but I said, look, let's give it a shot. I went out, I purchased a SanDisk card, a 512 CF Express Type B card. I'm actually recording on it right now. And I had two S1R2s with me, thanks to Panasonic Singapore for allowing me to do this. Side by side, shooting the same frame rate, everything the same, outdoors, bright sunshine, it's hot, right? I wanted to really test this out. And lo and behold, it's true. The SanDisk card performed much, much better than my Delkin Black and my XSN card. Getting high temperature sign here with the Delkin Black. Over here, nothing with the SanDisk, but high temperature here with the Delkin Black. I'll tell you in terms of the timings. Around 13 minutes and 30 seconds, the high temperature warning came on with the Delkin Black card. With the SanDisk, they were running at the same time, right? Recording at the same time. No high temperature warnings whatsoever. At 15 minutes, the Delkin Black one was out. The SanDisk was still recording, no high temperature warning at all. I tried it with the XSN, the same situation with the XSN as it happened with the Delkin Black. Now, these cards may be faster than the SanDisk card. That could be one of the reasons. I don't know. Or it could be the thermal management. But I will tell you, if you are facing overheating issues or if you've heard about this, try a SanDisk card. Perhaps Lumix or Panasonic will fix this in a future firmware update. I don't know. But this is something that I experienced and I saw it firsthand. Use SanDisk. You will be much better off. And since I've been, since I got the card, I've been using it. I've not had the overheating issues as I previously had. Now, again, around 30 minutes thereabouts, the camera will get hot, the card gets hot, and the battery dies down. So you're not going to get a long shelf life with this card, but you're getting much better than 13 to 15 minutes thereabouts. So I just want to put that in perspective. Let's talk about battery life though as well, because this is another stickler with this camera, which I understand that Panasonic wants to keep the size roughly the same as the S5 II, S5 IIX respectively. It's a great size, very portable, very easy camera to bring around, but it's the same battery. And then you got a camera like this that's going to shoot, higher frame rates, 8K, you're going to open gate, all these things. And you've got, better for photography and for video, but at the same time, you're using the same batteries. And as a result, the battery life, you're going to need to buy more batteries, in my personal opinion, if you want to really run this daily. Now, again, you can put a V-mount battery system on this. You can rig it up all you want to. But I would say if you're going to be using this for video primarily as a single, content creator, either get the vertical grip or buy multiple batteries. You're going to need them. I've been shooting a number of videos with this camera since I've had it over the past month. And yeah, I can't even finish a YouTube video on one battery normally. I usually have to use two. So keep that in mind. So it is what it is. Unfortunately, maybe there will be an firmware update that can better regulate the power management. I don't know. Or maybe Lumix will come out with the better batteries, higher capacity batteries. I don't know, but it's a little bit disheartening. With that said, let's talk about some other issues that I've come across with this camera. And this is not about complaining, but it's also just to highlight to you guys because I really like what this camera has to offer. And I think a lot of this stuff can be fixed in firmware updates. Let's talk about importing photos when you're using photo styles, because one of the great things with the Lumix cameras that I love is the Lumix Lab, right? You can get all these different photo styles. You can have these different LUTs on your photos. They're beautiful. They give a really nice look to your video. It saves you a lot of time. I love this system. However, in photography, if you want to use a photo style and use the raw image, it's going to come in to like 2 stops underexposed, okay, when you import it into Lightroom. I did find this out from Panasonic. They said, yes, if you want to shoot photography with this, turn it to standard. Do not go to photo styles because it's basically shooting log. It will underexpose by 2 stops. So again, can this be fixed in firmware? I don't know. It is what it is, okay? Some small things. Again, this camera is very new to the market. Panasonic has been known to come up with firmware updates to fix a lot of features on these cameras, add new features, and I'm sure they're going to do this as well with the S1R II, but these are things that I thought that are worth noting and for you to know as well. So anyway, with that, let's get back to the review. So my final thoughts on this, having it for the past month, I've really enjoyed using this camera. I mean, as I mentioned, the image quality for photography is fantastic. The autofocusing is probably the best that we're seeing out of any L-mount camera system thus far for video and photo. The ergonomics are great. The versatility of this camera system is fantastic. The EVF, 5.76 million dot EVF, high refresh rate, it's gorgeous. The display, everything is really good in this regard. There are the issues that I have with battery life. I wish it was better. Overall, I really like what this camera has to offer. And dollar for dollar, this is the best hybrid camera system I think in the market right now, hands down. The IBIS, anamorphic lens support for those who want that. Cropless stabilization, 6K open gate with future firmware updates coming with 8K open gate, which is awesome. I mean, there's so much flexibility in this system that for a hybrid content creator, it's a hard camera to pass on, especially for the price point. And you have the S5 IIX, you have the S9 respectively, which are also really good cameras. But this is, I mean, for photographers like myself who also do video, this is one to heavily consider. The size of the system, the size of the lenses, the L-mount Alliance is growing. Month by month, more members are coming on board, more lenses are coming out. There's some exciting lenses coming out in the near future that are gonna really push the system even further. And I think this is gonna be the year of the L-mount Alliance. And I think Panasonic with the Lumix S1R II and maybe what other cameras they got coming out are gonna be one of the leaders ahead. Leica's in a different category. The SL3, the SL3S, they're a premium camera. They're fantastic cameras. The SL3 is awesome for image quality, and the SL3S is really good as an all-purpose camera. But the Lumix S1R II, the S5 IIX, S5 II, S9 respectively, are designed for a much broader audience. An audience that maybe doesn't have the budget of a Leica, but you can put Leica lenses on this, and you can get some really awesome performance. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on the camera system. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Any questions you have, I'll answer them for you. Like always, like, subscribe. Thank you for the support, and I'll chat to you all very, very soon. Take care.